بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
Perhaps in this country, the accessibility towards materials on Islam as a whole, and of course the school of Ahlul Bayt in particular was very far and few in between, and of course communication was not so great as it is at the moment. So what was it that actually brought you and got you interested in the path of Ahlul Bayt alayhimu salatu wasalam?
Well, as a youngster, I had lived a life which was completely devoid of any spirituality. I'd followed a routine of going to the mosque to study Quran and basically read everything as a parrot would read, without really having any understanding whatsoever. And at a very young age, I had question marks in my mind as to why Islam that was being followed, or what I was followed, or what I was brought up in, was whether it was the right path or not. I was very rebellious in my young age, and I was granted a lot of success materially at a very early age. So within that aspect of it, I did not have a grounding of the Sharia that I know today, in hindsight, as an example, to build a life upon. My life was completely the opposite, in the fast lane, so to speak. And throughout the time, while I had that material success, I was very unhappy inwardly, because that meant nothing to me, because I was basically transgressing in every aspect of life that you could possibly imagine. And I was seeking. And occasionally I would pray in the morning, and I used to pray to Allah to have that I would like to meet someone who can guide me, but guide me towards true Islam, not the Islam that I was listening to or always be propagated in the mosques where I lived.
So what was it that you found unfulfilling about this Islam that you were being taught, the Islam that you had in the mosques, for example? What part of it was it that you found unfulfilling or left you with more questions?
The question that I had was basically that we were continuously taught about the Khalifa Rashidin there, as an example. We were continuously taught to not question the Maulana. I used to have a habit of questioning, and whenever I questioned, I was told to just keep quiet, that I don't know anything, and I must learn by just listening to what was being said. And I found that unacceptable, because that is not innate nature of human beings.
Indeed, and I believe there's a hadith of the Holy Prophet in which he says that knowledge is a locket whose key is question. So the religion of Islam places a lot of emphasis upon knowledge, upon questioning, upon trying to get to the understanding of things, the ultimate goal being, of course, the understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and all these all of our aspects being a way or a means in order to gain the understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's rather interesting that you should point out that there was a discouragement from questioning and therefore understanding.
Yeah, there was a continuous discouragement even from some of the elders that one would talk about. For example, at a very young age, I would ask, say, why do we do Tarawih in Ramadan, for example? Where's the proof for it? And I was told, just shut up. It is in the books. And just follow what your fathers and your forefathers have taught. But at that time, I did not understand the full aspect of what was real Islam. And my knowledge was very, very basic, very little. So I was probably even asking questions which were not were not fully relevant, right, to total understanding because of lack of information that was at that time. So as it evolved, I became disenchanted. So my aspect to going to the mosque was just to please my parents. That I was there and I came back, and every time I came in to the mosque for Quran classes and all that, with other boys that we were together, we would say, oh, come on, it's about only half an hour, we'll be gone soon. It was like that.
Yeah.
So there was absolutely no transmission whatsoever.
So what brought about this? Obviously, you'd become very disenchanted with the attitude of the elders and the people in the mosque, and so you weren't very keen or very happy to go to the mosque either, like you say. So what brought about the change in terms of you wanting to find out more about the religion, more about the truth, as opposed to, for example, what happens more commonly is that people abandon the religion altogether and they decide to become free thinkers or become atheists, or they're unconvinced with the attitudes that they find in the mosque. A lot of my friends or a lot of people that I know of went through phases like this where they became disenchanted with what they were hearing in the mosque, or they were not getting the answers that they needed in order to understand their faith, and therefore they rejected faith completely. So how come you didn't reject their faith, but rather wanted to what got you more interested into
I didn't reject the faith, but I wasn't practicing, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Right? And I always had in the back of my mind that I want to seek the truth. I would like to know what the truth is. And a question that came to my mind very early on, that if there is Islam as a religion has been completed, right, and is a final religion, then there has to be one way for everybody else, right? One way for whole of humanity, not in the way that we would disperse. And I could understand at that time some aspects of madhabs as well, because where I lived, we were basically Hanafi, and there were Wahhabis, and the Salafis weren't being talked about at that time. They're recent, so to speak. But I said, okay, why is there a difference in these madhabs and so forth? So the questions always arose in my mind, but I could not find answers to it. Okay, I went to different mosques at times to ask people, but I always came across, just come and listen to the khutbahs, learn, and just keep quiet, right, till Allah guides you. This is one of the ways that's saying, if Allah wills to guide you and all that. But again, it's something that unless you try yourself to seek something, guidance is not just going to come out of the blue. It's like everything else. You have to make the effort to do that. So subconsciously, while I was in that spirit, then through the answer of those prayers, somebody came into my life who came and basically told me the meaning of wudu in my office, right? And as a result of that, I was attracted. He never talked to me about the Ahlul Bayt, or never talked to me. He knew which background I came from, and he never said this is right or this is wrong. He says follow your heart. Always said to me, follow your heart. So and I did, and I ended up in a place in a foreign country where I was doing wudu, and I saw a gentleman come and do wudu at the same time with me, and that's where really my story started, because I went and complained to the Imam as soon as the prayers were over, that this particular person did not do his wudu correctly, and the Imam was very, very astute and very correct, and he said, Khalid, bring this gentleman whom I never forget, because he was the turning point for me,
Yes.
Ali Hassan, said, bring him for lunch at my quarters. So I went and sat down with him, having lunch and having a discussion. He said, Khalid, by the way, how do you do wudu? And I said, I do wudu, I gargle 3 times, I rinse my nose 3 times, wash my face, arms, don't do massage, but actually wash and neck and ears, all the way that I was taught as a Sunni, right? According to the Hanafi traditions.
Yes.
And he said to Ali Hassan, how do you do wudu? And Ali Hassan explained to him that before doing wudu, I have my hands washed, my rinsed and nose all clean, and I wash my face, I wash my hands. And he pointed out from top to bottom. And I do masah of the head and masah of the feet. And I said to him, I said, you know, see, I told you you did it wrong. I said, Khalid, open the Quran and say, open Surah Maida and read the verse on what's that. And when I read that, it completely opened my eyes up. I said, subhanAllah, he is right and I am wrong. And he said, to back it up, he said to me, he had a library there, the Imam had a library, and he said to me, look at Sahih Bukhari there, can you open that page on wudu? And he had a very big 30-40 volume page, not the condensed volume you get now, because over a period of time I see that they have removing evidences. And he said, I read what it says about that, and he said exactly what he said in the Quran, with an annotation at the bottom that the Prophet ﷺ never washed any other part other than what's mentioned in the Quran. So I said, subhanAllah, my wuzu is wrong. So I apologized to Ali Hassan. And I said, look, I had made a complaint about you to the Imam. I said, no, don't worry about it, just leave it as that. So I then said to myself, I would question everything. How do I pray? Why should I pray in this way? Why do I fold my hands, for example? Adhan. And as I went across, looked at it one by one, whatever I wanted to find answers to, I found in the library. I would open a book and I want to know something about, for example, Qunut, right? You do Qunut in the second rak'ah. It's recommended, very highly recommended. And I opened Sahih Muslim, in the aspect of Qunut, it was saying that it was not a condition that Qunut was recited in certain prayers and left out in the main prayers, as an example. Wudu, on the aspect of adhan, I said in the morning, as-salatu khayrun min an-nawm is different to the rest of the adhan during the daytime. That was a question I had. Where is the answer? What would I find? And again, I found a hadith which said that it was done during the time of Hazrat Umar, as an example, right? So I questioned. I said, why would the second caliph introduce an innovation in the adhan? Because to me that was an innovation. Because having read through the ayat that the Imam had taught me, it said follow Allah and His Rasul and follow those in authority. He did not tell me who the people in authority were. He said, Khalid, I want you to find that out yourself. Let me not, when I asked him the question, so you have to find and you have to follow your own heart. And if you're open with your ideas and you want to seek knowledge, the truth, Allah will guide you. So when I looked at the adhan, I said adhan. I found that there was an omission in the adhan. Hayya ala khayr al-amal was omitted. Again, as-salatu khayrun min an-nawm was substituted for that. So I said, subhanAllah, if I'm not even doing my adhan right, then how can I do my prayer right? Right? I said, now, did the Prophet keep his hands on the side when he prayed? Did he fold his hands? Because I saw people, some were this, and some were, like that. So I was reading the Muwatta of Imam Malik, and I knew the Malikis put their hands on the side, and I said, no, it can't be right again. It was something that was inquisitive in my nature to keep questioning. And I said, till I find what the truth is. Maybe all of it is the truth, right? I had completely an open mind about it. So I found that even the salat was not done the way that what I know today, according to prophetic teachings. For example, the Imam in our mosque never said Bismillah when he recited Surah Fatiha or any of the surahs afterwards. It remained silent. So I said, no, it can't be, because I read the Quran and every surah has a Bismillah. There must be a reason for it, right? And one thing led me to another similarly, and I found then where the omissions came. Then I want to know that if these are being omitted, who omitted them, right? So it was a natural desire for me to investigate and delve into that. So I continued.
I think it's fascinating how one thing leads to another, like you said. What I'm particularly interested in was this question about wudu,
Yeah.
because if we examine the Holy Quran, like you said, the verse in the Holy Quran, if we look at the Holy Quran, we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about all of the ibadat. He tells us about prayer, about fasting, hajj, all of these things. But there's only a sort of an indication towards them. There's no detail, we're told to pray, but there's no detail of how do you pray
Yes.
in the Holy Quran.
Yes.
Or we're told to fast, and we have some details about the fasting, but there's no complete, what breaks my fast and what doesn't, I can't find in the Holy Quran. Or even for Hajj, what are the arkan of Hajj. But as far as wudu is concerned, it's the only act of worship which is mentioned in this complete detail, from the beginning to the end. Everything has been mentioned in the Holy Quran. That verse number 6 of Surah Ma'idah tells us right from the beginning, oh, you who believe, this is what you have to do in order to do wudu. So wash your face and then wash your hands and then do masa of your head and of your feet. And yet, despite this, we still have these disagreements in terms of the views of different schools of thought in the religion of Islam about what constitutes wudu, whether the ears are involved, even though there's no mention of that, of course, in the verse. What constitutes the masa of the head? Is it the whole head? Is it a part of the head? Or is it, is it washing of the head? Is it just touching? And the same with the feet. But I mean, I thought that was fascinating, in how different people come to the school of Ahlul Bayt in different ways. But something as simple as or something as mundane, if you like, as wudu, which we probably do multiple times a day, and don't give it the importance that we might, that it definitely has in terms of not just the physical purity that we get from wudu, but also the spiritual purification that comes with that. But if we just move on a little bit slightly onto, obviously we've talked about wudu, and we've talked about prayer, and we've talked about adhan, and all the ibadat, and of course there's differences in terms of ibadat amongst different schools in the religion of Islam. But I'd like to just slightly move on to the more theological parts of the differences, the more significant differences in terms of authority in the religion of Islam, or in terms of the more aqaid beliefs, the beliefs that we have in terms of authority, in terms of imamat, in terms of infallibility, all of these things in which there are significant debates within the different schools. So I mean, obviously ibadat is a manifestation or an expression of that belief, the inner belief that we hold. So what is it that convinced you about these arguments in theology in the school of Ahlul Bayt which you weren't convinced with prior to coming over to the school of Ahlul Bayt?
It's a very good question, and I can answer it in this way, that when I was young, I had heard a hadith that was the end of time there will be 73 sects, and 71, the Jews will be 71, the Christians 72, and the Muslims will be the worst, 73 sects, only one sect will be saved, and all that. And whilst I was researching, I came across this hadith in Mustadrak of Imam Hakim.
Yes.
And it said, it actually gave me the background to what was the background to the hadith, which was basically that the Prophet ﷺ was standing with his companions, and the first caliph came in, rushing to the Prophet and said, "Ya Rasulullah, I've seen a man just round the valley here, praying in a manner that I've never seen pray before." Okay, and the Prophet ﷺ said to him, "Abu Bakr, go and kill him." So he goes and he comes back and he said, "Ya Rasulullah, I could not kill him. Now he was doing kunut in such a beautiful manner, and I've never heard him say something like that." So he said, "Omar, you please go and kill him." So Omar goes and he comes back. He doesn't kill him because this man now is in prostrating, and he says, "I was listening to his prostration and what he was reciting, and I came back and I couldn't kill him. I couldn't kill him in that state." The Prophet ﷺ said to him, to Imam Ali alayhi salam, say, "Ya Ali, please you go." And when he went and he came back, he said, "Ya Rasulullah, the man is gone." Because the Prophet ﷺ knew that Imam Ali, every action that he gave would be carried out. Every command was carried out. So the Prophet ﷺ said to the companions, and addressing the first two Khalifas at that time, that the Khalifas came after, he said, had you two not differed on account of what I said today, my Ummah would not have separated. So that had a very distinct impression on me, because I said, here are the two people that I've been listening in the mosque about being the Khalifa Rashidin, who were in open disobedience to the Prophet ﷺ. They were on this matter and they were on many matters that I was later to find out. And the only person that had gone and was able to come back, and the Prophet said that I knew you would have done it, right, was Imam Ali. So I said, who is Imam Ali? Right? I hear the name, I've heard the name being talked about, and how come he's included in the Khalifa Rashidin aspect of it, of things. So when I was researching that, I found that until the time, later into the Abbasid time, during the time of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, up to that time, only three Khalifas were being mentioned. It was Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, who was, as a politician, said, why didn't you include Imam Ali's name as the fourth Khalifa? It'll give you more credibility, because they knew. So it came about, and I said, now who are the Ahlul Bayt? Right? As an example, I want to find out what they say. And I said, now I made the decision at that time, I'll follow everything they say until I find something better than them. Right? That was my criteria. Because I said, I'm not going to dig in and find out all sorts of information and then make up my mind, because I don't know if I'm going to live or not. Okay? So when I took that criteria, I started discussing everything that was in the Sahih, Al-Sunnah books and all that. Because no matter what was being said, I was not prepared to accept. I said, I'll only accept what the Imam al-Islam say.
Thank you very much. It's a very, very interesting discussion. We could go on for a long, long time. But inshallah, we're going to take a very short break here. Please do stay tuned to this special episode. And inshallah, join us after the break, where we'll continue speaking to Brother Khalid and his wonderful story. Join us in a couple of moments. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back from the break. You're watching this special episode of How I Was Guided. I'm Sayyid Zafar Abbas, and my guest is Brother Khalid Malik. Before the break, we were discussing some of the theological differences between the schools in the religion of Islam, and what brought you to be more convinced about the Shia school of thought, the school of Ahlul Bayt alayhimu salatu wasalam. So please.
Yes, as time went along, a lot of my friends found out what my beliefs were tending to be, and we would get into discussions and so forth. So I took one of them to Regent Street Mosque, into the library, and I opened Sahih Bukhari there, and I told him to open this page of wudu, for example. And he did, and he opened, and it was exactly the same volume of Bukhari that I had previously been accustomed to. And when he saw that, he said, oh, no, this is a misprint. Maybe they made a mistake in printing it. I found this kind of opposition throughout what I was saying, and he said, okay, this is what the Imam said, this is what the Shia say. And they started linking the Shia sect to me, trying to argue with me about the formation of the Shia sect, about this famous character called Sabah. And I would refute and so forth, but never found them to be accommodating in time to actually try and listen to what was being said. And then I came to one conclusion, that while they could talk freely, but they were contained, and that thought process was contained within a certain tunnel through, and they did not want to go beyond that tunnel to explore. So I came across an ayat in the Quran which says that when they will be asked on the Day of Judgment who they followed, and they followed their fathers, or they would say they followed our fathers and our forefathers, but Allah says their fathers and forefathers will manifest in error, as an example. So I took that, that's another instance that I found that got me to continue to question more and more, and made me convinced all the time that at least I was not now following someone who had been disobedient to the Prophet. I was not following someone who I would not term as a believer anymore, because the Quran, if you follow the Quran and everything is contained in the Quran and everything is protected in the Quran, and it is with the, as I found out, everything was contained with the Prophet and the gate of the knowledge to the city of knowledge, which was Imam Ali alayhi salam, then why should I follow and take in references and believe in anything that is contrary to that? And as it would be, I found answers, always found answers to the questions I wanted. And when I started studying the biographies of Imam alayhi salam, it opened up again a completely new aspect of knowledge that they had, that I could not find, that it was not possible for a human to talk in the eloquence that they did.
I think that's very, very interesting. It reminds me of a discussion I was having a couple of days ago, where this brother from another school was saying to me, well, you know, we love Ahlul Bayt alayhimu salatu salam, we believe in them, we honor them, we respect them, and you know, all of these hadith about Imam Ali alayhi salatu salam, they're all, you know, we accept them, we think that he was a great personality. But however, certain people did become the Khalifa, and therefore we accept that. And also what we hear a lot is that there was no dispute between the companions and the Ahlul Bayt alayhimu salatu salam, and therefore, you know, who are we to judge? You know, the judgment is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We just respect and honor and venerate all of those people who were around the Holy Prophet. I'm interested to hear what you or what arguments you found convincing about the Shia school in terms of accepting the best person, because what I hear time and time again from the lay people and from the scholars in various schools is that it doesn't matter who was the greater, whether they had more knowledge or whether they were a better person, but if the Ummah agreed on somebody as the Khalifa, then we accept that, or you know, the fact that they became the Khalifa, they rule over the Muslims, therefore we must honor, respect, venerate them, and we don't criticize any of the companions, and we don't criticize Ahlul Bayt, because we think that they were, you know, they had a good relationship with each other. So what is it that for you that was not convincing about this, you know, the fact that they companions and the Ahlul Bayt were, you know, they were just one happy family, or the fact that the best person should be the one who has the authority? What particularly was it for you that brought you?
For me, it was basically the question that who is more noble? Is it the Prophet's family, or is it the one of the three Khalifas, for example, or was it Muawiyah? If you say that any of the three, any of these were nobler than the Prophet, then that is a lie. Okay. Now, how can the family of the Prophet be subjects to somebody who is less noble than them? Okay. Why would we follow someone who's disobeyed the Prophet during his own lifetime? Forget what they did afterwards. Okay. And these type of questions that arose when I discussed, I said, okay, let me ask you, I asked a simple question to one of the Maulanas, and I said to him, I said, you said that the Prophet did not leave a will, did not leave a successor, okay? So let's accept that. So why did the first Khalifa was selected by the people, correct? He said, yes. I said, then those people are masters over him because they elected him. So he's subservient to those people. I said, does that make sense to you? Or do you want the Khalifa or the Imam to be following Allah's orders or people's orders? He could not answer me. He told me to just shut up, right? I said, now, if that was not the case, then was the selection of the first Khalifa obedience to Allah's commands? He said, no. I said, can't be. So I say, okay, now you need to have a divine ruler. A ruler must be divine. So if the book of Allah is protected, Allah says the book is protected till the end of time. And I came across a hadith that if you don't know the Imam of your time, no matter how you pray, no matter how many hajj you do, how much charity you give, whatever you may do, right, you will end live like you'll end up like you have lived a life of jahiliyat, right? And there's an ayat in the Quran that everybody will be called according to with their Imam on the Day of Judgment, as an example. So I said, which Imam should I be following? Now we have 4 Imams now. We have the Khulafa Rashideen on one side, and then we have the question of the 4 madhabs that we're following. I said there are 4 madhabs within the Ahl Sunnah wa Jamaat, for example. Why are there 4 madhabs? I said, why are they different? The religion of Islam is based on Tawheed, oneness of everything. I said, I found the Aimah alayhi salam have not differed on anything they've said, on any subject matter, whether it was wudu, whether it was salat, whether it was supplications, whatever. There's been total conformity. And here I find that you have, in the school of thought that I was with before, there are divergent views about who did, whether you fold your hand or you do this or you do that. So I said obedience to Allah's command, to following the prophetic teachings, has to come in the aspect of jurisprudence as well. Because if you don't follow jurisprudentially, you follow the Islam and you don't follow the Sharia properly, then you might as well do whatever you want and justify everything to yourself. So that's why we've got all the divisions. So my conclusion on that was based on what the Quran, Allah says in the Quran, and the ayats that are revealed about the Aimah alayhi salam, which are in excess of 300 in the Quran. So Surah Al-Insan, Surah Al-Dahr, the whole of the surah, for example, is on the Ahlul Bayt. And our brothers from the Sunni school of thought, a lot of the Musafirun, they agree on that. But yet they disagree. And when it was pointed out to me that we should follow the companions, I say follow the rightly guided companions who follow the path of the Ahlul Bayt. I said to them, you cannot follow someone, right, or profess to say you follow the Ahlul Bayt when you don't actually follow them in action and word and deeds. I can say that I like you very much, right? I'm totally loyal to you, but you may give me a command, say, okay, I would like you to stop praying Taraweeh prayers because it's a bid'ah, right? As an example, right? They don't say they stop praying Taraweeh. They said they were asked questions by people about the Taraweeh prayers. They said this is the Sunnah of Umar. Now, this is the Sunnah being the Sunnah of Umar. Even the Sunni, most of the Sunnis that I spoke to, yes, of course, that's correct. I recently on television heard that he thought it was a good idea. I said, that's disobedience, regardless of what was being prayed, right? I was listening to television last night and saying there's been Quran, Taraweeh prayers and there's Quran. And I said the same thing. And I said, no, I had opposition to it, right, immediately. So these kind of deviations that took place, whether they manifest in the changing of rules or whatever, are away from the path of the prophetic teachings. And if it is away from that and not accepting the wilayah of Imam Ali alayhi salam, then the whole exercise is meaningless. They might as well follow anything else because it's not going to help them if we are to believe in the Quran. And what I found, the Aimah said in all the teaching, anything that we say, you must find proof of that in the Quran. If it disagrees with the Quran, do not accept it. But they never said anything which disapproved anyway, right? What is being said about them, which I found also with the concoctions, right, by others, say that they have made allegations that the Imam said this or Imam said that. I recently heard about Imam Bakr alayhi salam and Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam having said that they were that they supported the first Khalifa as an example, right? Total lies, because they're contradicting themselves as an example. So I found role models in the Aimah alayhi salam, right? And it took me a long time to understand their teaching and to learn, because when you come from a cultural background and take a lot of cultural baggage with you, it's easy to understand the message but not to actually apply it as well.
I think that your final point was actually very, very interesting. You know, how when you change from one idea to another idea, you bring a lot of cultural baggage, and thus makes it difficult to change. How did you overcome that cultural baggage that, you know, invariably everybody brings? And, you know, how about you know, some advice for some of our viewers out there who may have had similar problems or may be having similar problems of cultural baggage at the moment? How did you manage to overcome those problems and, you know, in your quest for the truth?
I discerned one thing, that whenever I was told to do something, right, by the elders or whoever was giving me advice, he would say, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. And when you give advice in that way, you are giving me advice. He would say, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. And when you give advice in that way, you are really giving advice or blowing the horn from the opposite direction. Because if you look at our youth today, even when I was young, where I was told don't do this, do that, I say, okay, they're saying that, okay, I'll listen, keep quiet, but I'll go back and again go on by habits. It was then I came across a very, very profound example about the drinking laws in Islam, as an example, which took the Prophet ﷺ almost 23 years to implement. From the time that he started, he used and moved scientifically, right, to bring an idea forward without pressurizing people into that idea, for people to understand what he was saying and then to slowly accept it. And once they begin to accept something, they say, now go back to the source who gave them that wonderful idea in the first place. Say, okay, we've done this, what next? Do you understand? It's basically the aspect of change or methodology that one can adapt within oneself to say, okay, I want to make this change, and how do I do it? Do I make the change immediately? I tell my family, all my son, all my children, start wearing hijab, you know, cut your beard, trim your beard, or don't do this or don't do that. I'm going to be up against a brick wall, because being brought up over here, our children being brought up over here, it's very difficult for them to have that kind of relationship. One needs to have a friendly relationship, an attitude which is completely open, but at the same time, look at the teachings of the Imams alayhi salam. Not just restricted to 10 days of a year, not restricted to, it should be on a daily basis that you find that what they're saying and try and follow that. Of course you'll have hurdles, of course you'll have your other self saying to you, don't do this, I want to do this, and so forth. So you have the life treating the opposites. But if you slowly and gradually follow and you start persisting, even though it doesn't make sense, right? And a lot of time it didn't make sense to me. When I was praying, I couldn't concentrate, right? It took me many, many years to start to concentrate even a little bit, as an example, right? So if you take that gradually, then Allah will guide you. And I found a very profound solution for this in terms of getting to that, was that the Aimma alayhi salam always talked about the recommended prayers, the fard, and they talked about the nawafil. It says all the nawafil prayer are there to prepare you for the recommended prayers, okay, so that you're aware. And there were logical laws that I read that the Aimma alayhi salam had put forward for every aspect of our worship, or every aspect of what we do in our lives, right? It's just that these were hidden. Now they are available. They're available in the bookshops. They're available on the internet. You know, the Wahhabi machine cannot stop it. Okay, I have, and through that, if you seek, it will come. If you're going with seeking but without the right intention, you'll be hitting yourself against a brick and you will not make progress.
I think that's your point will inshallah be helpful to a lot of our viewers who are listening, and as I say, we'll have some of these issues about cultural baggage. I thought your point about the alcohol laws or this gradual development is actually quite a beautiful one, I think, in the sense that you're right. I mean, in terms of when we're in a Western society where things are a bit more difficult, one cannot expect to change people or to change oneself even in a matter of days or even months. It'll be a gradual process in terms of changing yourself, and obviously the condition that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala wants is sincerity, and if the sincerity is there, then surely He will guide and He will help for wherever we fall short. And I think your point about also that Ayyuma alayhi salatu wasalam giving the reasonings, the logic behind things, will also appeal to an audience from a Western background. People who've been to university, who work in professional backgrounds, who will feel that they need to justify things to themselves. I believe in this, or why do I believe in this, or I practice this thing, why do I practice it, what is the reasoning for me to do this, and if if I have a reason that I'm doing this, then I have it's more convincing for me. I'm more sincere in doing what I'm doing if I know that there's a good reason behind it, there's a convincing reason, and as you say, that the reasons are with Ayyuma alayhi salatu wasalam, who've mentioned them time and time again. I think just in last couple of moments that we have in the show, I'd just like you to hopefully sum up your journey thus far. Obviously you came to the path of Ahlul Bayt almost 30 years ago. Now today, how do you feel in terms of this different type of a Muslim environment at the moment? We've now got lots of TV channels, different schools of thought in the religion of Islam have different channels, and there's lots being said through the new mediums. And so, what do you feel is your reaction towards this thing? How do you feel now as compared to how you felt when you first came to the path of Ahlul Bayt themselves?
Well, I look at the scene now, and as you said, I look at various channels every day to learn more, because you can only always learn from the opposite side as well. And I always say Alhamdulillah for what Allah has given me. I find the perfection of what Allah said in the Quran, and especially I refer to Surah Al-Munafiqun almost on a daily basis, that you read the verses and Allah has summed it all up in that. So when I look at someone who is coming on and saying something untoward, or hasn't got the right courtesy to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and is being unjust to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala as well through that, I just when any discussion comes up, I just refer them to Surah Al-Munafiqun, and I said, hey, all the answers are there for you. Try and discern. I have on the question of logic for everything, this was one of the most interesting and most beautiful aspects, that the Ayyuma alayhi salam had explained everything about every aspect of ibadah, worship, prayers, and given the logic behind all that. And if someone cared to look and buy books like Ayun Akhbar by Imam Reza alayhi salam, traditional Imam Reza alayhi salam, it has all the discourses and all the logical laws in there, and it's so beautiful. And once you read that, you know that this is not being said by someone who's ordinary. It has to be divinely inspired.
Well, thank you very much. I'm sure we could go on and on talking about your experiences, but
thank you very much for having me.
Unfortunately, it's the end of the program. Thank you very much to all our viewers for joining us in this very wonderful program. Thank you for Brother Khalid for joining us and sharing his words of wisdom for all of us, you know, even those who've been born into families who believe in Ahlul Bayt alayhimu salam, and especially for those who have come to the path of Ahlul Bayt and may well be finding it a little bit difficult. I'm sure there are lots of words of wisdom that you can take, we can all take and apply to our lives, and in the process become better individuals as a whole. Thank you very much for joining us. I'd like to wish you a very happy month of Ramadan. Insha'Allah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our actions in this holy month, and may He give us the opportunity to take full advantage of the holy month. Please do keep watching Ahlul Bayt TV, where we will be bringing you a whole new series of programs in the holy month of Ramadan. So stay tuned, keep watching and keep supporting Ahlul Bayt TV. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم كن لوليك الحجة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.